It's not the money that makes you rich. It's the routine of becoming better every day. That's where real wealth lives. You don't get wealthy because of luck. You don't get wealthy because of a miracle. You get wealthy because of your routines. See, money will come and money will go, but the disciplines you practice daily, they stay. Get up early, read the books, take the classes, develop the skills. Those are the things that separate the average life from the extraordinary one. If you've ever heard someone say, "If I just had more money, my problems would be solved," let me tell you, that's not true. More money only magnifies who you already are. If you're careless with $100, you'll be careless with 10,000. If you can't balance a small budget, you won't magically become disciplined when the numbers get bigger. Money doesn't change behavior, it amplifies it. That's why the first test of wealth is always how you handle the small amounts. Respect the dollar, and the dollar will respect you. Dismiss it, and it will dismiss you. I remember when I was broke, working a modest job, and someone told me to start putting 10% aside. I thought, 10% of this tiny paycheck? That's nothing. But the truth is, it wasn't about the size, it was about the habit. That habit taught me discipline, and that discipline stayed with me when my income grew. If you learn to take care of the pennies, the dollars will eventually flow your way. Carelessness repels wealth because it shows you don't value it. Careful stewardship attracts it because it shows you're ready for more. Think about it this way. If you handed a child a $100 bill and they spent it recklessly, you wouldn't give them 1,000. You'd wait until they showed responsibility with the smaller amount first. Life works the same way. Opportunity flows to those who prove they can be trusted with what they already have. It's not about waiting for a windfall. It's about proving yourself worthy of it. When I finally learned to manage small amounts with care, something shifted. I began to feel in control. Even though the numbers were modest, that sense of control grew into confidence, and that confidence became the foundation of every financial step I took afterward. The wealthy don't get wealthy by accident. They respect small amounts, and that respect invites larger amounts. So the lesson is simple. Start where you are. If it's only $100, manage it with the same care you would 10,000. Build the discipline now while the numbers are small, so that when the bigger numbers come, and they will, you'll already be prepared. Because wealth doesn't just respond to desire, it responds to discipline. When I was young, I thought money came from chasing money. I thought the goal was to work harder, longer, and somehow the paycheck would grow. But I soon discovered that money is only a byproduct. It shows up in proportion to the problems you solve. If you want to increase your income, don't just ask for a raise, increase the value you bring. If you want more money, learn to solve bigger problems. That's the secret the wealthy understand. I remember when I was barely getting by, working odd jobs, a mentor asked me a question that stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't ask for less problems, learn to solve more." That was a turning point. I realized my small paycheck wasn't because the world was unfair. It was because the problems I was solving were small. Once I learned new skills and started bringing solutions that mattered, the opportunities expanded, and so did my income. Think about it. A janitor solves the problem of keeping a building clean. It's an important job, but the scope of the problem is limited. A business owner, on the other hand, solves the problem of employing hundreds of people, keeping the business alive, paying taxes, and serving customers. Which problem is bigger, and which one attracts a bigger paycheck? It's not about worth as a human being. It's about the scale of service. The more people you serve and the more valuable your solutions, the greater the rewards. Ask yourself each day, who can I serve today? How can I help someone succeed? That shift in thinking changes everything. Service is the magnet that pulls prosperity toward you. Money follows value, and value comes from meeting needs, solving challenges, and helping people get where they want to go. When you make it your mission to lift others, the marketplace takes notice. I've watched ordinary people transform their financial lives not by chasing money, but by increasing their service. They studied harder, practiced discipline, looked for needs no one else was meeting, and stepped in with solutions. And soon, opportunity began chasing them. Prosperity always responds to service. So, if you want more, don't wish for luck or pray for shortcuts. Ask yourself how you can serve on a bigger scale. Because money doesn't chase the desperate, it chases the valuable. And value comes from service. I've always believed that ideas are like sparks. They flare up quickly, but if you don't catch them, they vanish into the wind. The marketplace doesn't pay for good intentions, it pays for execution. The difference between those who dream and those who prosper is simple. Action. A thinker imagines what could be, but a doer takes the first step before the opportunity fades. I remember in my early years, sitting with a notebook, scribbling thoughts and possibilities. My mentor once told me, "Don't let a good idea go unrecorded. The faintest ink is better than the strongest memory." That habit changed my life. Every time an idea came, I wrote it down. Some were small, some impractical, but every now and then, one had the power to change my direction. And the key wasn't just writing it down, it was moving on it quickly before hesitation drained its energy. Think about it. An idea about starting a business, making an investment, or learning a new skill is at its strongest the moment it arrives. Wait too long, and excuses start to pile up. You convince yourself you're not ready, or it's too risky, or the timing isn't right. Before you know it, the idea's gone, and with it, the opportunity. Wealth doesn't just come from having great thoughts. It comes from capturing them and acting on them while they're fresh. I once had a simple idea: to take the lessons I had learned and share them in small workshops. I could have dismissed it, thinking, who would listen to me? What do I know? But instead, I acted. I booked a small room, invited a handful of people, and delivered what I had. That small decision led to larger seminars, more opportunities, and eventually, a life beyond what I could have imagined. If I had waited, that idea might have frozen into doubt and disappeared. The wealthy don't have more ideas than others. They simply act faster on the ones they get. They test, they adjust, they move. And in that movement, doors open. The longer you sit on a thought, the colder it gets, until it's nothing but a faint memory of what could have been. So here's the challenge. When a good idea strikes, capture it immediately. Write it down, refine it, and take one small action to set it in motion. Because wealth isn't born in thinking, it's born in doing. One of the most dangerous habits in money management is making decisions when emotions are running high. Fear and excitement, those two imposters, are responsible for draining more bank accounts than bad luck ever will. People lose money not because they don't earn enough, but because they can't control the urge to act on a feeling. Wealth, on the other hand, demands discipline. It asks you to let logic steer the wheel while emotion rides quietly in the back seat. I remember standing once in front of something I didn't need, but I wanted it badly. My heart said yes, but my budget said no. And in that moment, I understood the battle most people face every day. We spend when we're excited, and we panic when we're afraid. Both roads lead to regret. Excitement says, buy it now, you deserve it. And fear says, sell it all, before you lose everything. But discipline whispers, wait, think, let tomorrow have a say. My mentor taught me the simplest trick. Pause. Don't make a major purchase or investment decision on the same day the emotion hits. Sleep on it. Wake up with fresh eyes. And often you'll find the urgency has faded and reason has returned. That one habit alone has saved me and many others from unnecessary losses. Take investing, for example. When markets rise, people rush in because of excitement. When markets fall, they rush out because of fear. But the wealthy don't play by that rhythm. They let discipline dictate their moves, not feelings. That's why they build steady gains while others ride the roller coaster of emotion. Even with simple spending, emotions leak wealth quietly. How many times have you bought something impulsively only to regret it later? Each little leak seems harmless, but over time, it drains the reservoir of your financial future. Wealth isn't just about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And keeping requires discipline. I learned early on that every dollar has a purpose. If you let emotions decide its fate, it slips away into things that don't matter. But if you pause, reflect, and let logic lead, that dollar becomes a brick in your foundation. So train yourself to wait, to think, to choose with clarity. Because once you remove emotional spending, you stop the leaks. And when you stop the leaks, you give wealth a chance to stay, to grow, and to serve you for a lifetime. One of the most powerful lessons I ever discovered is that wealth doesn't start in your wallet, it starts in your mind. Long before the money shows up, knowledge has to be planted. The wealthy understand this principle. That's why they never stop learning. They attend seminars, they read voraciously, they listen to people who have walked the path ahead of them. They know that knowledge compounds even faster than money. The more you learn, the more valuable you become, and the more opportunities seem to chase you instead of you chasing them. I still remember the first seminar I attended when I was broke. I had just enough money to cover the ticket and a sandwich, but I decided to go. That one day exposed me to ideas about wealth, personal development, and business that changed the trajectory of my life. The knowledge I gained didn't immediately put dollars in my pocket, but it sharpened my vision and expanded my possibilities. And over time, that shift in thinking produced real financial results. Most people make the mistake of thinking education ends after school. But formal education will earn you a living. Self-education will earn you a fortune. Every book you pick up on finance, business, or personal growth is like a seed. Plant enough of them, and your mind becomes a rich field where wealth can grow. The trick is consistency. 15 minutes of learning a day compounds into wisdom that most people never touch. I used to dedicate a portion of my car rides to listening to audio programs instead of music. Over months and years, those hours added up to a second education. And when opportunities came, I was ready because my mind had been prepared in advance. That's the key. You don't just learn for the sake of learning. You learn so that when the moment arrives, you have the insight to act with confidence. Think about it this way. If you earn based on the value you bring, then the fastest way to increase your income is to increase your value. And your value increases every time you learn something new and put it into practice. So never stop learning. Read the books. Listen to the tapes. Attend the seminars. Feed your mind daily. Because the more you learn, and soon enough, you'll discover that wealth has been chasing you all along. One of the greatest lessons I learned about wealth is the balance between speed and patience. The wealthy know how to act quickly, but they also understand how to let results grow slowly. Most people do the opposite. They hesitate when opportunity knocks, and then they demand instant results once they finally get moving. That combination is what keeps them stuck. The key is to take action fast, but let the rewards come in their own time. I'll never forget when I was presented with the chance to start a small venture years ago. The idea wasn't perfect, and I didn't have every answer, but I took action immediately. I said yes, then I figured out the details as I went. That decision opened doors I never imagined. Had I hesitated, I might have talked myself out of it. That's the danger of waiting too long. Opportunity gets colder with every passing day. Ideas don't stay hot forever. You've got to grab them while they still have energy. But once you've acted, you must also understand that wealth doesn't grow overnight. Just like planting a seed, you can't dig it up every morning to see if it's growing. You plant, you water, you nurture, and you trust the process. The wealthy are masters at this. They are quick to sow, but patient with the harvest. They start the side project, make the investment, learn the new skill, but then they give it time to mature. I remember investing in a small savings plan when I had very little. The returns were not dramatic in the beginning, just a few extra dollars here and there. But over time, those consistent contributions and the power of compounding turned that modest start into something substantial. The principle is the same with every area of success. Act fast, then wait patiently. Too many people procrastinate when they should be moving and then get impatient when they should be waiting. That's a formula for frustration. The formula for wealth is the opposite. Begin immediately, don't overthink. Take the first step, however small. But once you're in motion, learn to trust the slow, steady process of growth. So act quickly on good ideas, but let your wealth compound slowly. Speed in execution, patience in results. That's the rhythm of success. Most people live their entire lives with a financial script they didn't even write. From childhood, we inherit beliefs about money from our parents, our environment, and society. If you grew up hearing phrases like money doesn't grow on trees, or the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, chances are you've been programmed to see money as scarce or even dangerous. And here's the truth. If you believe money's bad, if you see it as greedy or corrupt, you'll subconsciously push it away, no matter how hard you work. Your actions will always align with your deepest beliefs. I remember when I was younger, I used to think that money was only for a special class of people, that wealth was out of reach for someone like me, that belief shaped every decision I made. I didn't invest, I didn't save properly, and I certainly didn't see myself capable of financial independence. My results reflected my thinking. It wasn't until a mentor challenged me to rewrite my financial story that everything began to change. He said, if you want to be wealthy, you've got to stop seeing money as the enemy and start treating it as a tool. That shift was profound. Money itself is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It simply takes on the character of the person who holds it. In the hands of someone selfish, it can cause harm. But in the hands of someone disciplined, generous, and wise, money becomes a tool for freedom, growth, and contribution. The wealthy understand this. They don't worship money, but they respect it. They see it as a servant, not a master. To change your story, you've got to change your language. Instead of saying, I'll never be rich, begin saying, I am learning to master money. Instead of repeating, I can't afford it, train yourself to ask, how can I afford it? That small change in words rewires the mind for possibilities instead of limitations. Over time, your actions begin to follow that new belief system. You'll start saving, investing, and building because your story now supports those behaviors. So if you want to change your financial future, start by changing your financial story. Tell yourself a new one, that money is not scarce, it's abundant, that it's not evil, it's a tool, that it's not for others, it's for you too. When you rewire your beliefs, wealth begins to flow naturally toward you. Time is one of the greatest assets we have, yet most people treat it like an enemy. They waste it, they fight it, or they wait for the right moment that never arrives. But here's the truth. Time can either work for you or against you. It can compound your wealth, or it can compound your regrets. The wealthy understand this principle better than anyone else. They plant their seeds early and let time do the heavy lifting. I remember when I was first told about the power of compounding. At the time, I didn't have much, but I started small. I put a little aside consistently, even when it felt insignificant. In the early days, the results didn't look like much. A few dollars here, a few dollars there. But as the years passed, something remarkable happened. Those small contributions grew into something substantial, not because I was a genius investor, but because I gave time the chance to multiply my efforts. That's the magic of compounding. It rewards those who start early and stay consistent. The mistake many people make is waiting until they think they have enough to begin. They tell themselves, once I make more money, then I'll save. Once I'm more stable, then I'll invest. But by the time they finally get around to it, years have slipped away. And time lost is opportunity lost. Wealth doesn't demand perfection. It demands urgency. You don't have to start big. You just have to start now. Think of time as a partner in your financial journey. Every day you delay is like leaving money on the table. But every day you act is like putting another worker on your team. The earlier you put time to work, the sooner it begins to serve you. And the beauty of it is that time never gets tired. It compounds quietly in the background, multiplying your efforts while you go about your life. I've met people who regretted not starting sooner. They look back on 10 or 20 years and said, if only I had begun then, I'd be free by now. That regret compounds just as powerfully as wealth does. Don't let that be your story. So use time as your ally. Start today, even if it's small. Save, invest, plant the seeds. Let time do what it does best. One day, the results will come looking for you, and you'll be glad you made time your partner, not your enemy. Time is the great equalizer. No matter who you are, you wake up each morning with the same 24 hours as everyone else. The difference between those who build wealth and those who struggle isn't found in the number of hours. It's found in how they use them. Time can either become your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It will either compound your wealth or it will compound your regrets. And the choice is entirely in your hands. When I first learned this truth, I realized that time could do the heavy lifting for me if I only gave it the chance. Early in my career, I didn't have a fortune to invest, but I had something far more valuable, time. I started small, saving and investing little amounts that almost felt too insignificant to matter. But as the years went by, those small, disciplined steps began to multiply in ways I couldn't have imagined. Not because I had discovered a secret shortcut, but because I had partnered with time. That partnership turned modest beginnings into meaningful results. Most people make the mistake of waiting. They tell themselves, I'll start when I have more money. I'll save when things get easier. I'll invest when I feel ready. But the truth is, every year you wait is a year you lose. And time lost is gone forever. Think about it. The seed you don't plant today cannot grow tomorrow. But the seed you plant now, no matter how small, begins immediately to draw on the power of time. Time is patient and it never rushes. It compounds quietly, day after day, while you go about your life. That's why wealthy people plant their seeds early and allow time to do what it does best. They don't look for overnight results. They look for long-term growth. They understand that the earlier you start, the greater the harvest you will enjoy. I've spoken with many people later in life who look back and say, if only I had started 10 years earlier, I'd be free by now. That regret weighs heavy because unlike money, time cannot be earned back once it's gone. So don't wait for the perfect moment. It will never come. Start now, even if it's small. Put time on your side and let it compound your efforts. Because if you make time your ally, the results will eventually come looking for you. One of the greatest traps that robs people of progress is comparison. It's easy to look around at what others have, the car they drive, the house they live in, the vacations they take, and start to feel behind. But comparison is a thief. It steals your energy, your joy, and most importantly, your focus. While you're busy measuring yourself against someone else's highlight reel, you lose sight of your own goals. The broke often fall into this cycle, chasing status to keep up appearances, spending money they don't have to impress people they don't even know. That path never leads to wealth. It only leads to frustration. The wealthy think differently. They don't measure themselves by others. They measure themselves by their own progress. They understand that the real game is not about looking rich, but about building real wealth quietly. They put their heads down, focus on their plan, and let compounding do its invisible work in the background. Compounding doesn't care how flashy your lifestyle looks. It only cares about consistency. I remember times in my own journey when I was tempted to compare. I saw people buying new toys, living big, while I was still sowing seeds and saving little by little. At first, it was discouraging. But then I realized something. While they were spending to look wealthy, I was building the foundation to become wealthy. And as the years went by, compounding proved me right. The small, steady actions began to multiply into something significant, while many of those chasing appearances ended up stuck, struggling under the weight of their choices. The key is to replace comparison with compounding. Instead of asking, how do I measure up to them? Ask, am I further along today than I was yesterday? Instead of worrying about the pace of others, commit to your own pace. Steady, consistent, disciplined. Over time, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Wealth is not built in a sprint. It's built in a marathon. The race isn't against your neighbor, your colleague, or your friend. It's against your own distractions and impatience. If you can keep your eyes on your path, keep saving, keep investing, keep learning, and keep growing, time and compounding will do what comparison never could. It will bring you freedom. So, stop comparing, start compounding, and let the quiet force of consistency create the future you deserve. Failure is not something to run from. It's something to expect and even embrace if you're serious about building wealth. Too many people treat failure as a dead end, when in reality it's just feedback. It's life handing you a note that says, here's where you went wrong, and here's what to fix next time. The wealthy aren't immune to mistakes. In fact, they make plenty of them. The difference is, they don't let failure define them. They let it refine them. When I was first learning to manage money and build a business, I made decisions that cost me dearly. I invested in ideas that didn't work out. I trusted the wrong people at times. And yes, I lost money. But here's what I discovered. Each failure carried within it a seed of instruction. I began to make it a practice to sit down after every mistake and write out what I learned, not just a vague reflection, but clear notes. What decision I made, why I made it, and what I would do differently next time. That simple practice turned losses into tuition, school fees for the education that eventually helped me succeed. Most people let failure bruise their ego, and then they retreat. But if you look at the truly successful, you'll notice they use failure as fuel. They learn quickly, they adjust their approach, and they get back in the game faster than anyone else. That speed of recovery makes all the difference. Where others see defeat, they see data. Where others see loss, they see leverage. Think of failure as part of the price you pay for admission to wealth. If you're unwilling to stumble, you'll never learn how to run. If you're unwilling to lose small amounts, you'll never build the wisdom to manage large amounts. The sooner you can detach your self-worth from your outcomes, the freer you become to learn from your mistakes without shame. The formula is simple: learn, adjust, repeat. That cycle, if practiced consistently, guarantees progress. Every misstep becomes a stepping stone, every wrong turn becomes redirection, and every setback becomes setup for something greater. So don't fear failure. Expect it, embrace it, and let it become your greatest teacher. With each lesson you collect, you're one step closer to the freedom and success you've been working toward. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was this: every time you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else. Most people don't realize the weight of that exchange. They say yes out of habit, out of guilt, or out of fear of missing out. Before they know it, their days are filled with distractions, their energy is drained, and their focus, the very thing wealth depends on, is scattered in every direction. The truth is, not every opportunity is your opportunity. And the faster you learn to say no, the faster you'll be able to say yes to what truly matters. I remember in my early years, I thought success meant grabbing at every chance that came my way. If someone had an idea, I jumped on it. If there was an event, I attended it. If there was a deal, I put my money into it. I thought activity meant progress, but all it did was leave me tired, unfocused, and with very little to show for it. Then I began to study the wealthy, and I noticed a pattern. They weren't chasing everything, they were filtering. They guarded their time like treasure. They turned down distractions so they could give their best energy to what mattered most. It's the same with money. If you don't say no to impulse spending, you won't have the capital to say yes to investments. If you don't say no to quick fixes, you won't have the patience to say yes to compounding. And if you don't say no to every hand that pulls at your wallet, you won't have the strength to say yes to your own financial future. Saying no is not about being selfish. It's about being strategic. Guard your calendar the way you guard your wallet. Fill it with what moves you closer to your goals, and politely decline the rest. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but every no to distraction is a yes to your priorities, your freedom, and your wealth. So choose wisely. Say no often. Protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does.